once whispered as the boogeyman in the hushed corners of the heavyweight division. Martin Bakole was dubbed as the most feared upcoming contender. Yet, it was under the unforgiving lights of a short-notice fight against Joseph Parker that the myth began to unravel. In defeat, the veil slowly peeled back, and the illusion, once the most feared, began its quiet retreat into the shadows. After Ajagba II wore a mask of menace. With an 80% knockout ratio in his first 15 bouts, he was hailed as the next great hammer of the division. But when he stood across Frank Sanchez, the limits of brute force were laid bare. The mystique faded, not all at once, but steadily as vulnerabilities long hidden were drawn towards the light. Martin Bakole stands in at 6'6". He's a pressure fighter orientated boxer puncher who uses his size and raw strength to walk opponents down. He often weighs close to 300 pounds on fight night, making him an opposing presence in the ring. Bakole fights behind a stern jab, unloading multi-punch combinations, and relies on heavy, thudding power rather than slick offense. Despite his size, he has surprisingly quick hands and strings together punches well, bombarding opponents with volume and physicality. His durability and solid chin allow him to remain composed under fire. Bakole does have drawbacks. He is a plodding, flat-footed fighter with only average foot speed, and he often keeps a low lead hand despite having a limited defense. His MO is to start fights slowly, then increasing his work rate as the bout progresses. After Ajagba is a classic outboxer power puncher, also standing in at 6'6" with an impressive 85-inch reach, the same as Tyson Fury. Ajagba is most effective fighting from the outside, where he can attain full extension. He is best described as a straight-line puncher with raw power and limited versatility. He works behind a steady jab and 1-2 combinations, maintaining distance and looking to catch opponents at the end of his power. However, straight style can make him rather predictable, as there are no complex setups or counters. Ajagba also tends to fight tall and lacks head movement, which can leave him vulnerable to opponents who can close in. The matchup is intriguing as both fighters use the physical gifts to their advantage. Ajagba by controlling range and landing straight shots. Bakole by applying pressure and breaking down Ajagba with volume and power. Boxing Reviews is true elegance, where every competitor's abilities are shaped and bounded by their own strengths and limitations. Success in a ring depends on how well a boxer can leverage the attributes to exploit the opponent's weaknesses. Size alone isn't always an advantage. Weighing in at 299 pounds brings its own set of challenges. Carrying such weight can hinder mobility. Bakole possesses fast hands but slow feet. He lacks explosiveness, so he must find ways to close in on distance and set his feet before letting loose his punches.
But I do think in the final 30 seconds, Martin Bakole started to close the gap a little bit. We'll see.
In comparison, Ajagba, who is 59 pounds lighter and has a 3-inch reach advantage, has the mobility advantage in the ring. His strategy is straightforward. Keep his feet moving to prevent the bigger man from setting. Use the jab to control distance. And score with straight punches.
Move to your left, move to your right. Just do not stand still in front of this guy. 3 right there. He led with a hook just to land that right hand.
Nice right hand there.
Breaking that distance with that jab, that long, strong jab.
First round on his way to an easy 10-9 round. Martin
For this matchup, it's crucial for Ajagba to establish lateral movement. With Bakole holding the center of the ring, Ajagba must constantly change angles to create space and avoid being trapped. Maintaining enough distance from the ropes is vital, as it gives Ajagba room to maneuver defensively and pull back when necessary.
have so much power without really stepping into the jab his way in, touching the butt. And if that is what he needs,
or the shoulder of Ajagba.
Though Bakole struggled to close the distance, he sees those small windows of opportunities threading in his jab when Ajagba stepped into the pocket or opened up with his jab.
As a heavy-handed guy, scary guy with power in both hands. Favorably in athleticism to an NFL defensive back.
Bakole just throw that right hand right to the chest of Ajagba. He's not going to hit.
Lead during the build-up to this one, F.A. Ajagba and Martin Bakole. The tempo starting to...
In the third round, for reasons unclear, Ajagba abandoned his movement and chose to fight off the ropes. This played right into Bakole's hands, as he can now set his feet and unload on a stationary target.
Good to him.
Don't be lazy, huh?
You don't see the movements.
Trying to smother the reach on Ajagba, and that's precisely what he wants to avoid.
However, when Bakole let his hands loose, he often did so without much regard for defense, stringing together combinations and leaving himself open.
Into shots like that, but keep your range. Stay responsible. It's only a matter of time. Bakole can't.
The bigger man seemed to welcome these exchanges, relying on his durability and power to get the better of the two.
I do think in the final 30 seconds, Martin Bakole started to close the gap a little bit. We'll see out there, Sergio, that trying to slip to his right, jab.
This approach, though, came with his own risk. By focusing on offense and neglecting defense, Bakole left gaps in his guard, giving Ajagba opportunities to slip in counters.
Moment ago, and Bakole's been stopped a couple of times, but I have more questions about the Ajagba looked a little unsteady as he was navigating his way back to the ropes here. Now Asis in front of him, trying to keep him there.
Still, despite Ajagba landing a few shots, the fight was unfolding on Bakole's terms.
Man, once he starts throwing that upper...
Missionary in the corner. He's absorbing a lot of shots here. Right hand is kind of that corkscrew right hand.
These close-range exchanges continued throughout the fourth round. Although Ajagba found some openings, poor positioning allowed Bakole to plant his feet to leverage his power.
Turn sideways, catch and counter. You can't get hit shots like that because look, squared up against them. We're talking about Max coming over the top of the head right there.
Throwing 87 punches in a single round takes a serious toll, especially for a heavyweight tipping the scales at 299 pounds. High output demands high recovery, and by the fifth, the bigger man was clearly feeling the effects. He began to backpedal, needing time to get his legs back under him, just to keep up with Ajagba's movements.
And then get to the side of Bakole and start holding.
It's also a curious decision to...
At one point, Bakole even had to use the ropes to propel himself forward, just to close the distance. Some call it running, while others see it as boxing smart. Personally, I think running is when a fighter is actively avoiding any real exchanges, peppering a few shots, then immediately pulling out a firing range. Ajagba uses footwork to his advantage. When he did stand and trade, it rarely worked in his favor, but he still managed to pick his moments to fire his punches. So who's really to blame here? The boxer who uses his mobility to his advantage, or the overweight opponent who can't find the answers for it? If you're facing someone who weighs in at 299 pounds, it's rarely a good idea to stand and trade with someone who outweighs you by 60 pounds. Sometimes, movement isn't just a strategy, it's a basic instinct to survival. If you truly pause to reflect, what truly defines intelligence in a ring? Is it the wisdom to shape the fight to your strengths, or the folly of letting your opponent dictate the terms? Perhaps intelligence lies not in the willingness to engage on any terms, but in the discipline to resist being drawn into another's game. In the end, is it not wiser to play to your own advantage, rather than surrender your agency to the design of another?
He has fought an excellent fight and the right fight based on his opponent.
And not a good lead. Even when he was having success, landing some jabs, those shots like moving his upper body, and when he would land a big shot, move laterally, move around the ring. It was Ajagba that got back on the jab, back on the back foot.